Super Flying Man by Hollow Models RC. He's a foam-board hero built for you and me, printed from lightweight PLA, so light and easy, yet brushless motor and ESC, soar through the clouds, make history. Use a 6 or 7-inch prop, have no fear. Super Flying Man, hero of the air, change his head, no need to repair. Don't fly through rain, he'll fall apart with excruciating pain. Super Flying Man, soaring through the sky, brushless motors, high-speed flybys, wings of foam, removable heads. Don't get him wet or he will be dead.
What's up, everybody? My name is Bill from Hollow Models RC, and welcome to my channel. I have got my 3D printed Super Flying Man laid out on the table in front of me. I'm printing the entire body with 2 walls, 3 tops, 2 bottoms, and 1.5 to 2% infill. Now I printed this guy with 2% all throughout just to make him a little bit heavier, to see how he flies heavier. The heads are completely removable. I did supply, I think, 7 different heads with the files themselves and the mohawk separately, and from the collar down, just that neck part separately. In the very near future, I am going to show you how to add your head to my model by simply taking one picture of yourself, turning it into a 3D model, and then adding it to this neck file. I will make a video on how to do that so you can add your head or whatever head you want. The head is removable by inserting magnets in those slots. They're going to sit on the opposite sides of those walls right there. And then there's 2 pins for alignment, and magnets will go also on the other side of the torso there. All the servos are completely internally. The servos are going to go about here. The servos are screwed in and removable. I do have CG marks inside of his body, and push rod wire is going to go in there. The push rods will come out the bottom of his feet and go to the elevons. If I flip over my feet, I have got a servo wire channel for the optional rudder and fin. I do have G codes and 3MFs for everything that is included with Super Flying Man. The rudder and the fin are hinged, typical Hollow Models RC style, with just simply a piece of PLA. The servo just pops right in the bottom, and then this is going to mount to the foam board, either glued on, or you can also print the back plate and screw it on. The model itself, it does come with the control horns and the back plates that you see there. I am using the outermost hole in my servo arm, and that gives you the perfect amount of throw to have this guy so he's highly maneuverable. It is a mid-mounted pusher, so you can keep it in a very tight area. So the holes that you see here is where I'm mounting the wing. Now I've tried several different things. Like I said, I built several of these guys. I've tried different ways of mounting the foam board cape to his back. This was the most efficient way and the best way that I have found, and the lightest way, is simply by inserting these pins through the foam board into his body at 6 different locations, and that's how I'm going to mount the wing. So if you need to remove the wing, you can cut the pins off, put the wing back on, and use the other hole that you see in each of these spots, so you can reuse the wing. Now the foam board wing, I did supply with the files several different foam board wings. There's actually 3 different sizes plus a skin. So the most scale size is what you see here. The most scale size also comes as a skin, but I only made the skin in red. That's actually Red Riding Hood cape there. So this is the most scale size wing. Now when you go to print this as a typical PDF format that you would cut out at a foam board, you can print the whole thing as one and put all that together, or you can print just one half, just the left or just the right. I have separate files for all that, and then stack the foam board on top of one another, cut it all out, cut 2 pieces out at the same time, and then glue them together, because they all have a seam in the center anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I do have optional dual 1806 motors. There's a mid-size cape. That's the one I would recommend flying or building for the very first time. And then I also have an oversized cape. Now, like I said, they're all printable, either full or half. But the oversized cape is actually a little bit wider than 2 sheets of foam board. So this one is laid out differently. This one, the top part of it is long ways, and then this bottom piece I have cut in half. I do have the layout of the foam board on the PDF of each plan, so you can see how the layout of the foam board is. See this, and then not only is the oversized one printable as half or whole, but it's also printable as sheets of foam board itself, how they would fit onto 2 sheets of foam board, and then cut them out. So the motor mounts I did supply. This uses the X style that comes with your motor. I printed this out of ASA. Highly recommend using ASA for any prop driven aircraft motor mount that's 3D printed. If you're not going to use ASA, ABS would be the next best, I would say, but one roll of ASA will last you for the rest of your life most likely. So this uses the X style that comes with your motor, but I do have the 19x16, like a traditional CPAC size motor mount, the 1916 and the 12x16 for the dual 1806 motors. So there's 3 motor mounts that come with Super Flying Man that you see here. Alright, I'm going to start gluing this guy together now. I guess the first thing you should do is to get your 36-inch 8mm dowel and to cut it in half. And then to make sure that your dowel is going to fit into all your pieces, which should not be a problem. You can use 8mm carbon fiber for this, although I would recommend just using the dowel. I did factor in that additional weight from the dowel, and it doesn't really need carbon fiber. It's not structural, but if you put the dowel in, you can pick this guy up by his arm and carry him around. So I measured my dowel and then cut it in half using my alternate lifestyle cutters. And he goes together super simple. The heads I'm going to put magnets in, but I want to make sure the head's going to slide on and off very easy, so that when you glue the arms on, you need to make sure that that head is going to come on and off very easy. So I'm going to start in the torso and kind of work my way back. All the parts are flat on the other side, which makes this very simple actually. You can put it down on the table if you want and glue the parts together. I'm going to keep the dowel in there while I do it though. So let's do it like this. Let's put my dowel in here. And you can see the dowel's at an angle, so you got to be careful on how you do that. So I'm going to apply glue. I'm not going to glue the dowel in. I want to reuse the dowel. Although the couple of these things that I crashed, the dowel was definitely not reusable.
What?
Because the arms and the head, they're the first thing to crunch if you break this thing. I'm going to put a generous amount of glue there. Whatever you do, don't glue the dowel in, like I said, because then you're going to have a problem. Either that or you can glue all the pieces together first and then put the dowels in afterward. Now the last one of these I glued together, I did not put enough glue on it, and I had to come back through afterward and add more glue. I might wind up doing that again. If you're really worried about gluing the dowels in, I'm going to say you start towards the bottom. Alright, so next piece. Getting that strand of PLA out the way there. making sure my dowel's not glued in, because like I said, you will not be able to slide the next piece on. So if you're worried that you're going to glue the dowel in, or you think it's possible, just glue the parts together, insert the dowel afterward, or just don't use the dowel. You just won't be able to pick them up by the arms. Pop them out. So the foam board, when it sits on top of here, it's going to butt up against that part there. Watch, if I put the dowel in, as you can see, the foam board sits right up against his shoulder there. So I'm not going to put glue on the shoulder area. So I guess glue the arms looking at it from the front and get this as flush as you can. Once you glue the 3 center sections, it's not so pertinent that the dowel gets glued in. If it gets glued in after you have these 3 center sections, it's okay. It's the same thing. No glue on this upper portion up there. Now what I meant with the removable head is when you glue the second arm on, or maybe the first one, you need to make sure that your head's going to fit in there. So it might be better to dry fit the head in there. I probably should have did that with the first arm. Otherwise the arm's going to be the head's going to be real tight. And don't glue your head in. Pretty self-explanatory, this guy. Really didn't need a build video. Now that dowel might be too long, and it is, so I gotta cut a little bit off of each side. Get my alternate lifestyle cutters. Just like how I put the glue there, that's probably gonna glue the dowel in. At this point it's okay. I got too much glue. Alright, so now I'm going to put the pins in there. Help align the head. The pins are going to go in his torso. The hole that you see in the thighs there, that's where the push rod wire is going to go. Now you're not going to see this side anyway because the foam board mounts up to it. I just felt more comfortable with more glue in them spots. Now you can't put him flat on the table and glue his legs or any of them together unless his arms are off because of this lip. So that's why I was hanging him off the edge of the table there and then gluing them on. Print it with 2 walls, 3 tops, and 2 bottoms. This guy's very strong, and that's how I wanted them, so that if you paint them, it doesn't just break. It doesn't matter how much glue is on the back side, you're not going to see it. It's already nose heavy because of that dowel, which worked out great in the long run because the first couple guys of these I made, they were tail heavy and I had to put a lot of nose weight in them. Like a lot of nose weight. Do the same thing because it makes me feel better. Alright, last is the magnets for his head. Now you just got to make sure you get the polarity correct, especially if you're using multiple heads. And I did make the whole sizes so they accommodate a bunch of different size magnets. I got flat or round, whatever I want to use here. Now I'm actually going to check the polarity of my other guy so that all my heads can be interchangeable between my 2 models. Just like that. Actually, what works really well is, this is the second side that I'm doing. So I put the old head on there, and then I'm going to go ahead and drop glue down there. And toss them in there, literally. Just like that. A little extra glue ain't gonna hurt. It does help to do the head side first and then the torso side because they're easier to get to, but I wanted them to match my other model. clarity on the other one. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and leave that on there. Coat it in glue, and then hit it with accelerator. I got to do the other head also, and then that's it for the PLA portion of the build. Let's do that with the other guy. Let me check the polarity of the body again. Alright, I'm going to get set up to lay out my sheets and glue them together to assemble the plans to cut the film board out. So I have Super Flying Man painted for the most part. It's a relatively easy build, other than a couple things I would point out. If I was to give pointers on the build and say, hey, make sure you look out for this, it would be just a couple things. The first one being, when you glue his arms on, don't do what I did. I glued the one arm on a little crooked, and his head's a little tight. I mean, it's almost pointless to have magnets at this point. It's like a friction fit. So what I would say is when you're going to glue both arms on, or the shoulders, dry fit the head first and leave it in position, and then glue this arm on, and then glue that arm on, you know, and then take your head back off, so that you know the head's going to fit and your shoulders and your arms are not crooked like mine turned out to be. The next thing I would say would be the placement of your rudder. If you're not sure if you want the removable rudder on it or not, which is this, if you're not sure, just go ahead and lay the servo wire into this channel. I did not make this channel big enough to feed this connector all the way through. Now you probably could slip it in, but you're not going to get it past that pin. So if you're not sure if you want the removable rudder on it or not, just put a servo wire in there before you mount the wing on. And then the last thing I would say to look out for would be the placement of the pins on your foam board wing. So when I printed this out, this is the oversized cape. I built the other ones. I wanted to do the oversized one. The layout's a little bit different, and the cutting of the foam board is different. You got one sheet that goes long this way, and then I cut the other sheet in half, and there's two halves that I glued together. You'll see in a second. So I've got the holes, the placement of the holes. You see a green and a black dot, a green and a black dot, and a green and a black dot. There's 6 spots where the wing is going to mount to the PLA body. So we're going to use either all forward or all aft, as noted right there. And I recommend using all the black aft positions. And the reason for that is because if I use all the forward positions, as you can see right there, if I use the forward position, and I have the KF airfoil on, this disc is going to protrude forward a little bit. So that was my secondary position as a fail-safe. Now it can be put under the KF airfoil, or you could simply just not put the KF airfoil on But I do like having the KF airfoils there because I like to min wax my foam board and waterproof it, and a lot of the time that makes the foam board warp. So when I have a KF airfoil on there, it brings the foam board back to its flat shape. So I'll show you the wing that I got. I did paint the wing. I did a relatively quick job at it. So I'm the designer of this thing, and I forgot to mark the holes on both the KF airfoils and on the wing. So luckily I didn't crumple my plans up. I was able to get the plans on the other side of the wing and poke the holes for the locations of my pins and discs to be able to mount the wing. When you're sticking these pins through the foam board, either create the hole in the foam board first, or have your hand on the other side of the foam board. Don't just push the pin through while the body's laying on the table and the foam board's on top of it. Put some support underneath and then push the pin through the foam board and then align it into your body. Otherwise, you chance breaking his legs off, which are down here. I put so much pressure to break that pin through the foam board, I actually broke his leg in half. So definitely don't do what I did. Learn from my mistake. So I'll grab my pins and discs. You got 6 and 6. Now you can start at the front, you can start at the back. It doesn't really matter. Just make sure the wing is seated up against his shoulders there and centered. So I've got the position. Now when these go in, they're going to go in at a 45-degree angle. If you look at the holes there, I'm not putting the pin in forward from front to back or laterally. I'm putting the pin in on a 45-degree angle, and that was so that it prints the best way. So I'll get my first pin. I'm just going to stab it through the foam board here. Put my disc on it. And I'm just going to put it in that aft hole. I'm going to dry fit all the pins. Dry fit all the pins all the way back before you glue anything. And I'll do that to my next one. I'm going to do this to all 6 all the way back. I have tried a bunch of different things. Like I said, I've done the Gorilla Glue, I have tried epoxy, and I've tried CA. And this really does, I mean, it's skeptical when you first look at it. I mean, like, man, that guy's an idiot. Why is he doing that? But this system really works out very well. And it's super easy, and it cuts down weight. When I was using, like, the Gorilla Glue and the epoxy, I actually added hot glue to it because I didn't feel comfortable with it. And it added so much weight to put all that hot glue on there. So don't knock it till you try it. Now, if you watch the video of the Super Flying Man that I painted like Superman, I crashed, or he hit the ground about 30 times, and not one of these pins ever broke. These were made to fit tight. If you look at the STL of the disc, the way that that's actually not a square. It's a very weird shape, and that was so I can get it to print exactly as a square to get that pin to be nice and tight. So just kind of take your time with this. As long as you got your holes marked in the correct locations, this actually isn't that hard. Helps to be able to see it. That first hole was a little bit in the wrong spot. That's why I had struggled on that second one. So that one went right in, no problem. This helps to keep the wing square on the body too, exactly where it's supposed to be. That one's in. One more. Make sure when you're doing these back pins that you're putting your hand under it when you put pressure on it. Alright, so I've got all my pins dry fit where I want them. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to remove all the pins. I'm going to lay my servo wire through. Then I'm going to put the pins back into their locations how I want them glued in. Alright, so I've got my servo wire in this channel. I'm going to tack it in with hot glue just so I don't have to fight it. The connector that's down here can sit all the way at his inner leg right there. So I'm just going to leave it there, and I'm going to tack this in with a couple beads of hot glue. And notice how I'm keeping the hot glue far away from his leg. Once you're happy with that, put your wing back on. You could have just did that before. Make sure your pins are in whatever location you want them. Alright, so all my pins are in. They're dry fit in there. I'm going to pull one pin out at a time with my pliers. And I put a bunch of glue down in that hole. Maybe smart to check your flow and see how much glue is coming out when I squeeze on it, so I know. Stick it down in the hole. If you don't trust that, you can always just put a little bit of glue on your pin. Remember, don't just put pressure down on it. Grab your super flying man and hold the pin down until that sets. You don't want to feel stress anywhere, so if it feels like the pins are misaligned, it's okay to make the hole in the foam board a little bit bigger if you need to. Like you can tell on that one, I don't know how well you can see that, but the hole's not perfectly aligned there. So if I wanted to, I can make the hole in the foam board a little bit bigger going forward. That actually helps me to see how much glue I'm putting in there too. So I'm trying to keep all my pins facing the same direction. Be mindful of that if you're OCD. Again, don't just push down on the pin. Put your hand underneath the body. Push the pin in. His body's actually pretty strong. It takes a pretty good amount of force to break them. You don't want to put too much glue on these pins, because it will ooze out of that hole and go into the hole next to you, or soak into the foam board on the bottom, or just make a mess. Alright, and most importantly, in the back, make sure your hand is underneath the wing when you're doing this. Put my pin back in, push it down. You can print the feet with a higher infill percentage or more walls if you want. I did note that in the 3MF files. But I printed this one with 2% gyroid all across the board, all the way, all the parts, and 2 walls. But the feet, you could put 3 walls and 4% if you want, but I wouldn't go any higher than that. I got all my pins in. Alright, so the glue has dried on all the pins and the tabs. I brought my electronics out, or the motor anyway, and the fin and the rudder. I'm going to show you guys how to do that. It's typical Hollow Models RC style. We're just going to put a piece of ASA or filament down in there. I like to use ASA for this. I definitely would recommend investing in ASA. I'm going to reiterate that. So I'm just going to go ahead and feed my filament down through the rudder. Now you can use a lighter for this, or do this however you want. It's got my hot glue gun. I'm going to melt one side of it flat. Pull it down, cut it off. This rudder and fin is printed from pre-foamed. And I've got 2 walls on the bottom quarter of the print, and then 1 wall on the rest of it. It seemed to work out very well that way. Servo is going to just push right in from the bottom. One thing to note about this is I did mark the holes where the fin is going to screw in or glue on, however you want to do this. There's also an optional back plate that you can print and use screws to do this if you want. So, however, what you will need to do is line the holes up to the marks that are on the plans, and maybe trace this servo spot that's right there, and you will have to cut that out. I didn't want the servo sticking up super high because I didn't want it to block the wind at all, so I put it down in the center where the foam board is going to be, so not as much wind is blocked by the servo itself. And then the servo goes inside the fin extremely simply. And look where my wire's coming out. Now if you want this on the bottom or the top of Super Flying Man, you can do that. It doesn't matter on the top or the bottom. And if you want, you could also get the fin file and mirror it so that your wire is coming out on the other side, depending on you put it on the top or the bottom or however you want it. Usually on a mid-mounted pusher, if you're going to have extra weight on either the left or the right, you always want to try to put it on the right side to counteract the rotation of the prop. I printed my control horns out of ASA. It does have a back plate. You can use a screw on this if you want to. The screw will go in the top side, the control horn side, and it will screw into the back plate. The holes are a different size, as you can probably see. I like to print my control horns out of ASA so I can leave it sit out in the sun and I don't have to worry about the freaking thing melting. So doesn't matter which side you put them on. However, if the control horn's facing this way, I do like the flat part to stick out towards the wingtip. So I'll put this one on this side, on my left side, and I'll put this one on the right side. Now the slots for the control horns are kind of important, the location of that. They are marked on the plans. I just simply put a cut line in there into my foam board because the push rod wires are coming out the bottom of his feet. So you want the control horn in that spot. I printed the motor mount out of ASA. This one is going to use the T-style that comes with the motor itself. There is other motor mounts that are available with the download files. I'm just going to use 3mm bolts and nuts to mount the motor mount to the motor itself. Now, I printed this out of ASA so I don't have to worry about this melting. This motor will get very hot. Even the spinner will get hot to the touch. However, it won't melt the ASA. If you're really worried about it, you can get something like this, or a piece of cardboard, or a couple pieces of cardstock, or something to dissipate the heat, and add it in between, and then bolt your motor mount in there, and you'll be alright. So I'm going to use a 50 amp ESC on this one. It is a 2836 1500 kV motor. I did put the rudder wire in there like you guys seen. And then I guess lastly, these are the motor mounts. If you're not comfortable with the size of these, you can make them a little bigger or do whatever you want. It's just foam board. So you're going to have one on the top and one on the bottom. They're going to sit back where the motor mount slot is at. The motor mount is simply going to slide into that hole, and it's got two directions for the foam board each way. It will fit right into them slots. And I'm just going to hot glue that in. So when you do install your motor mount and your motor, and say the motor is sitting down here, you want the hub to go in the direct center of the slot the best that you can, especially up and down, which is the more important direction than left and right. Alright, that's it. I'm going to fast forward. I'm going to install my control horns, and I'm going to put my fin and rudder on, and I'm going to install some of my electronics. I'm going to put my motor mount in.
Super flying man by Hollow Models RC. He's a foam-board hero built for you and me. Printed from lightweight PLA. So light and easy, yet brushless motor and ESC. So through the clouds make history. Wing scale or wide, the wind in his face. Skyward he flies, reaching new space. Oh, the foam-board hero takes to the sky. Powering up, he's a real great flyer. Through the clouds and the sun he flies. A skyward hero, a real head turner. With every loop he feels the thrill. Up, down, left, right, he's a skillful build. His journey's not just for show. He actually flies through wind and snow. Wing scale or wide, the wind in his face. Pick your own head, reach outer space. Wet and falls from the sky. Oh, the foam-board hero takes to the sky. Thrilling up, he's a real fun flyer. Through the sun and the clouds he flies. Make your own hero, don't lose orientation. Brushless motor and ASTA, he's got the gear. Brought to you by Hollow Models RC. Use a 6 or 7-inch prop. Have no fear. Super flying man, hero of the air. Change his head, no need to repair. Skew wings are oversized, he takes flight. Don't fly through rain, he'll fall apart with excruciating pain. Super flying man, soaring through the sky. Brushless motors, high-speed flybys, wings of foam, removable heads. Don't get him wet or he will be dead.
Super flying man by Hollow Models RC. He's a foam board hero built for you and me. Printed from lightweight PLA, so light and easy. Add brushless motor and ESC, so through the clouds make history. Wing scale or wide, the wind in his face. Skyward he flies, reaching new space. Oh, the foam board hero takes to the sky, powering up, he's a real great flyer. Through the clouds and the sun he flies, a skyward hero, a real head turner. Every loop he feels the thrill, up, down, left, right, he's a skillful build. His journey's not just for show, he actually flies through wind and snow. Wing scale or wide, the wind in his face. Pick your own head, reach outer space. Oh, the foam board hero takes to the sky, powering up, he's a real fun flyer. Through the clouds and the rain he tries, until he gets wet and falls from the sky. Oh, the foam board hero takes to the sky, thrilling up, he's a real fun flyer. Through the sun and the clouds he flies. Make your own hero, don't lose orientation. Brushless motor and ASC, he's got the gear. Brought to you by Hollow Models RC. Use a 6 or 7-inch prop, have no fear. Super flying man, hero of the air. Change his head, no need to repair.